The Board of Selectmen will read our agenda briefly. We are going to be going in executive session at the beginning of the meeting. We anticipate it will run to about 6:15, and then at that time we'll re-adjourn up here. On the agenda tonight, Mr. David Meridian, our state representative, is going to be before us. We have the distinguished pleasure of welcoming a new police officer to the town of Upton, Christopher Trainer. The Historical Commission will be coming in at 6:25 for a school plaque project, and we have a dangerous dog hearing at 6:30. In addition to that, under discussion items, we will be discussing the acceptance of street names for Upton Ridge Development. We will be reviewing common vic and Class 2 license renewals. We'll be discussing the 40B project on 149 Main Street and seeking approval from the board. We'll be discussing tax title properties. We'll also discuss the annual report for the town's annual report. We will execute the deed for 3 Milford Street that was accepted at the last special town meeting, and we will review a proposal for a Tri-Valley annual road race. Other than that, the board will be going in executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 214, Section 1B, Exception Number 7, and Public Records Law, General Law, Chapter 4, Section 7, Clause 26C, to discuss financial assistance to a resident in need. So the board will be going in executive session. We will re-adjourn up here. We will reconvene up here at 6:15. So I'd ask a roll call to go in executive session, please.
Stephen Metellian, aye.
Gary Doherty, aye.
Robert Fleming, aye. We're in executive session. We'll be back in 15. Thank you. I think we did a pretty good job. So at this time on our agenda, Representative David Meridian, would you like to come up here?
Would it be okay if I give my couple of moments to the chief?
What if I said no? No, more than our pleasure. Chief, I'll turn it over to you, please.
Great. Tonight we have the pleasure of swearing in a new officer and doing a badge fitting ceremony, so thank you, Representative Meridian, for allowing us to go first. Just a little bit of background on the process for this hire. The town received approximately 50 applications for the position of patrol officer. A review panel consisting of myself, town manager, a member of the personnel board, screened the applicants, chose 10 applicants for initial interviews. An interview panel consisting of myself, personnel board member Scott Van Ralton, Sandra Hackler from the town manager's office, and field training officer, Detective Michael Benjamin, interviewed the candidates for further consideration. After careful review and consideration of the performance and background of each individual, Christopher Trainer was selected for a follow-up interview with the town manager. Based on the result of that interview, the town made a conditional job offer contingent upon successful completion of a medical psychological exam, a background investigation, and completion of the full-time police academy. I'm pleased to report to you that Christopher Trainer successfully passed each phase of the screening process, as well as graduating from the Lowell Police Academy on November 3rd of this year. Just a little bit of background about Christopher. He's a resident of the town of Shrewsbury, a 2013 graduate of Catholic Memorial High School. He holds a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from Iona College and completed the Fordham Army ROTC program as a cadet logistics officer. Christopher currently serves as a commissioned officer in the Army Reserve. Christopher was also the recipient of the 2017 Officer Sean A. Collier Self-Sponsored Scholarship Award from MIT, which allowed him to attend and graduate the Lowell Police Academy. So we thank Christopher for his service to our country, and we look forward to him serving the citizens of Upton as a patrol officer.
Very well stated, Chief. Congratulations. Please stand. We want to shake your hand.
Thanks, sir. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Sure.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
At this time, I'd like to call the town clerk up to
Please.
administer the oath of office.
Ready? Raise your right hand. I, Christopher Trainer,
I, Christopher Trainer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
and impartially
and impartially
discharge the duties incumbent upon me
discharge the duties incumbent upon me
as a patrol officer for the town of Upton,
as a patrol officer for the town of Upton,
according to the best of my ability and understanding,
according to the best of my ability and understanding,
according to the rules and regulations
according to the rules and regulations
of the police department,
of the police department,
the Constitution,
the Constitution,
the laws of the United
the
States,
laws of the United States,
and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts,
and under rules,
and under rules,
regulations, and bylaws
regulations, and bylaws
of the town of Upton,
of the town of Upton,
made under the authority thereof,
made under the authority thereof,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Call up Christopher's parents, Kathleen and Michael, to do the badge fit.
All right, thank you. Hoping we don't pin the wrong thing, right?
No pressure.
He's got double sweatshirts on.
I know. I
Just in case.
Here you go, Dad. Take it over from here.
Congratulations. At this time, Representative Meridian,
If you don't mind, Mr. Chairman, could I be joined by my counterpart and friend?
you'll do it
Senator
jointly,
Moore?
please. Senator Moore, please.
Well, we wanted to come tonight to congratulate you, Officer Trainer. I don't think that you're going to find two people in the legislature who are more public safety proponents than us. The senator actually is the chair of the Public Safety Committee from the Senate side, and I'm a proud member to be on the committee. So we actually bring you official recognition from the House and Senate. I'll read this to you. To the Commonwealth of Massachusetts House of Representatives. Be it hereby known to all that the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Christopher Trainer in recognition of the joyous occasion of your pinning ceremony and becoming a member of the Upton Police Department. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses a hope for future good fortune and continued success in all endeavors. Given today, the 5th of December, 2017, signed by Speaker of the House Robert A. DeLeo, and I'm sure your favorite state rep is Hannah Kane because of Shrewsbury, but your second favorite state rep, Dave Meridian.
Thank you for inviting us here tonight, and again, thank you, Rep. Meridian. And thank you. It's a tough career that you're entering. There's going to be a lot of demands from you, a lot expected of you from the community. And I think knowing the culture and the climate today, a lot of oversight and a lot of people critiquing what you do every day. And I think, I know in the legislature and public service, the best thing is the reward you get for helping people, for sure. That's why you're entering this field. And I want to thank you for doing that. I also want to thank, I don't want to say wife.
My girlfriend.
Okay, sorry. Your family. Your family. This is a family commitment that's made. And whatever you do, the risk you take is for all of us. And thank you. And I have for you from the State Senate, an official citation. Be it known, the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations in recognition of the pinning ceremony and the taking of the oath as you are welcomed as a new member of the Upton Police Department. And be it further known that the Massachusetts Senate extends best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and attested to in a copy thereof, transmitted by the clerk. It's signed by the President of the Senate and myself, and again, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is one of the pleasurable things that the board has to do. As they say, I've been around since the roads in Upton were dirt, but I'm looking here and there are 7 members against that wall. I had the privilege of being present in the appointment process, and I'm proud of every one of you, so thank you. Thank you very much. So, welcome to Upton. Anything you'd like to say after all of this?
I don't know how to top that. No, I want to say thank you to the chief for taking a risk on me and definitely hope to prove that was the right choice for you. The rest of the department, looking forward to working alongside you and learning from you as I start my career. And to the town, thank you very much for trusting your faith in me. And I look forward to serving you and seeing you out in the streets. And
Well
Lord,
said.
thank you. Thank you.
Well said, thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
In case you forget.
Very nicely done. Well done, Chief. Thank you.
Yeah, well.
Senator, nice seeing you.
Nice to see you. We didn't pledge wrong?
What?
I think we're
Thank you. Said another executive, I forgot it.
I don't know if you want to get them back in here.
Well, I think I'm better to let it slide for now.
Yeah. Those are very nice ceremonies. You know, the way it's presented, the way it just really comes, it's, heartwarming, as you would
They hit a
say.
home run.
When you look up there and see seven of them,
For you, I can imagine, yeah.
all the way back, a lot of years ago.
Were they as young as
Okay.
this kid when he first started?
What?
Were they as young as this gentleman when they first started?
A couple of them were, right?
Absolutely. Representative Meridian, are you ready?
Sure.
Thank you for your
Yes.
patience, and I apologize for any disruption.
Well, thank you, and if it's okay again,
It's nice that you two get along so well.
absolutely. Well, it was very nice of you to go into executive session to make sure that we were both here on time.
Well, you
We
make sure
appreciate
that I was here.
so
Well
much.
stated. Okay.
And he went the speed limit, nothing but. First off, I wanted to come and congratulate the Blackstone Valley Tech football team. What an amazing season. I was able to go to Gillette. They came up just a little bit short. I think there was a couple questionable calls by the referees there. But for all the students who are from Upton who go to Valley Tech, it was really cool. You know what else was also really neat was I was behind a big group of Nipmuc football and soccer students. So it's great to see the support, the Pleasant Street support. Just wanted to come and give you a quick little update. As of right now, the House and Senate, the legislature, is in our kind of our winter recess. We're out of full formal session, so there's no recorded roll call votes. That does not mean that any of the work does not get done. There's still public hearings, there's still informal sessions, but before we did break, which typically is the week of Thanksgiving, before we did break, the House did a couple of wonderful things that I was proud to support. We did the Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. It's ensuring that expecting mothers or new moms have the right to work if they so choose, which on the surface sounds pretty easy to understand and kind of common sense, but sometimes common sense is lacking in some of the industries. So basically it says employers cannot reject applicants of mothers on the basis of expecting or caring for a newborn, and cannot force mothers to take inconvenient hours or other accommodations that might force them to actually be out of the job. So that's a great one to get behind. I was proud to do that. And then we did criminal justice reform. It's great where we had the Upton Police Department here earlier. The legislature, both the House and Senate, took our whacks at doing a little bit of criminal justice reform. The House did not take up many amendments to the bill. I'm very proud to sit here and say that 2 amendments that I did file were included in the bill. One would increase protections on correction officers on and off duty from having to face any potential threats. So anyone now found intimidating a correction officer would face 2.5 years in prison. So there's a big list of people who are included, police officers down to court officers, stuff like that, but correction officers were not in there. And then that will follow up with my second amendment, which was a commission to study correction officer suicide rates and to look at preventative measures. A staggering stat is that the average life expectancy of a correction officer is not to live past their 59th birthday. So that was pretty crazy once I heard that, and I thought that we could try to do something to help them out. Many suffer through that for PTSD, anxiety, depression, and basically this commission will look at increasing available counseling services, improve suicide risk identification, and different ways to reduce stress on our correction officers. Just to give the board and everyone watching at home a little heads up with regards to all things marijuana, because that's what everyone likes to talk about. The Cannabis Control Commission has been established, and the members are Steve Hoffman, who's the chair, Jen Flanagan, Britt McBride, Kay Doyle, and Shailene Title. The good thing for both the senator and myself is that Jen Flanagan's a former member of the legislature, both the House and the Senate. So should the town have any questions for the Cannabis Control Commission and run into any issues with reaching out to them, we'll gladly reach out to her on your behalf. So the Cannabis Control Commission has public meetings planned for policy discussion and debate of their draft regulations coming up. I believe they're penciled in for December 21st and 22nd to further discuss and accept these regulations. And they're planning on holding a series of public hearings after that on the draft of regulations across the state, and that's going to be the week of February 5th. Now, there's a snow week, the snow date is next week, if you will, after that. The Cannabis Control Commission is aiming to file their final regulations by March 9th, which is ahead of their March 15th deadline. So that was a little bit of kind of what's going on in Beacon Hill, aside from some of the stuff that you might be hearing. And then I do want to just say two more things. Thank you to the town of Upton for joining me and taking part in my Bundle Up the Blackstone Valley coat drive. The town hall was nice enough to put up a box that's actually still there right now and full of coats. So we held the event this past week in Grafton, and we, through the generosity of many people within the communities, were able to collect just under 550 coats that are going to be dispersed back to communities in my district. Grafton, Northridge, and Upton. I reached out to all the school districts. They all wanted coats. I reached out to Piece of Bread in Northridge. I reached out to the DCF office in Northridge. They all wanted coats. So as lucky as we are, there's still some people who are less fortunate, and I'm really proud to say that we're all trying to do our part and help out. The last thing, and actually I do want to thank the police department, who was here earlier, for taking part in that. The association came out, joined with the Grafton and Northridge associations to bring in 50 brand new unworn coats. So that was wonderful. The last thing I want to say is that as we just passed Thanksgiving and we're into the holidays, people do look back, and very thankful of things. I'm very thankful to be your state representative. It's a pleasure to serve. It's a pleasure to work with each and every one of you. And I'm proud to say that in my second term, this is my year 3, I have yet to miss a recorded roll call vote. I have a 100% perfect voting record, and this past year I made it 305 consecutive votes for the year. So I take this job very seriously, as does my good friend Senator Moore, and we're proud to be your delegation. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them, and I'll turn it over now to you.
Thank you. Well, I don't have my paperwork prepared, but for a presentation tonight. But as far as by the time the Senate had left session, we have passed actually a bill that I sponsored, a sexual assault bill on college campuses. That was passed unanimously by the Senate about 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks before we ended session. We also did as Representative Meridian said, we did a form of the criminal justice, restorative justice bill, criminal justice bill in the Senate. So our version is a little different from the House version. One part of the bill that is actually from a bill that one part of this legislation is from a piece of legislation that I filed. It's making misdemeanors, decriminalizing misdemeanors. So basically you take small misdemeanors, say trespassing or disorderly conduct, or say there's an arrestable offense on a town bylaw that you have. It would allow the officer responding to actually make the determination to whether he had to make an arrest or actually issue a citation, similar to like a motor vehicle. So it actually accomplishes several aspects. One, it keeps people out of the criminal justice system. Two, it actually helps the communities and the police departments with your resources, is because now rather than having to send an officer to court You can send the person, depending on the gravity of the offense, you can send the offender off with a citation that he can pay through the mail, rather than, again, having to follow the court process where they get arrested and they have to go to court and you have to have a hearing on it. So hopefully that will be helpful. But the bill will now have to go, the main bill will have to go to a conference committee. We also, both branches actually also passed a health access bill for women's health. So that was actually also done, where there's potential of women losing access to certain health care coverage federally. The legislature actually was, Massachusetts was one of the first in the state to pass that. And we also were the first in the state to pass, and again, this was both branches being signed by the governor, we were the first to pass the ban on the bump stocks. And the bump stocks in the crank case, case. So that's the bump stock is what was used out in Nevada, Las Vegas, in that tragedy. So I think we've done some pretty significant pieces of legislation. Also, and I think I spoke to the town manager about this, we did some overrides of the governor's vetoes. So now the question is, the legislature has passed it, the governor vetoed it, we've now reauthorized it. The tough part now will be getting the administration to support or release the funding for it. But if there's anything we can do to try to help you there, please let us know. And I want to thank Gary and also the town manager. Was it last week or the week before? I had my annual turkey dinner at the senior center. I think we had about 80 people, 80 seniors show up for the turkey dinner. And they came over, volunteered their time, helped out serving. I also want to thank the chief of police and the chief of the fire department. They also showed up and gave their time. So thank you, and if there's any other questions that we can answer.
Turn to my colleagues, Gary.
I'd like to thank both of you guys for all the work you do for our communities. But I have one question for the senators. I was reading that you were doing something for Northbridge, a bill with OPEB or something. You sponsored a bill.
Can you help me a little further?
Yeah, let's see if I can find it again. I was just wondering what that was about. Let's see, it's House docket 4414. It's something to do with other post-employment benefit liability trust fund for the town of Northbridge.
If it's a House bill,
So that was just filed today,
Oh, okay.
and so that was from a home rule petition. So that was from the town. They took action on it in a town meeting. But Senator Moore and Senator Fatman, because Northbridge is split, we're all on that piece of legislation. But
Have anything to benefit us, or I'm not even
it's specific just to Northbridge. It totally depends on if you want to take up that language at town meeting. I can certainly get you a copy of it so you can
I
look
was just
at
wondering
it.
what it was
Yeah.
about. I didn't know if it was like.
No, it's more of just a local bill for them, similar to, if anything, that came from Upton. If it was passed at town meeting, we'd certainly file it for you.
Oh, so it's not a way to cut back how much they owe or anything.
We wish, huh?
That's what I was just curious about.
So I assume what they did, they structured it so it becomes a bylaw mandate within their town that's supported at a certain rate. Is it a bylaw change within the town?
I believe that's
Yeah,
what it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, okay.
I can follow up the town manager on
Okay.
Sure. Saw something come
Yeah,
up
we
on
can
the
get it
internet,
for
so I
you
was
too,
wondering
if
what that
need
was
be.
about. So,
what Adam.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you have anything like that?
No, just once again, thank you, gentlemen. Doing a great job for the town here. We appreciate it.
I guess the only other thing we should probably bring up is that the legislature will probably be doing some kind of bond bill when we get back in January, February, whether it's a capital, I think it's going to be a capital bond bill. So any sort of infrastructure that you may need some funding for, I would recommend trying to get that to us.
Yeah.
And it would have to be, again, this would be building. So where it's capital, it wouldn't be a bridge or a roadway or something like that. So we can try to,
Be a building though?
some sort of a structure or.
Like a DPW barn?
Something
Yeah,
just like
something
that.
That's
Like
Or even maybe the design plans for it, or just something related to it.
Okay, great, thank
I'm
you.
not saying we can get it, but we can
At least try for it.
Well, we realize, we're a community of 8,000 people, but you two both give a great deal of attention to our town. We do appreciate it. And the
Thank you.
support, you're always there for us, so thank you very much.
It's our pleasure.
Can't say enough, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thought that was a way to save some money. Thank you.
I go look at it.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. and Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Thank you.
Adam,
Okay.
point about all kinds of things.
Okay.
To know.
Perfect.
Thanks. Thanks, you too. Take care.
Just excuse for 1 second. Yeah, okay. No, just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, next on our agenda, we have the Historical Commission. We have a representative relative to a school plaque project. And
And that would be me.
welcome to Upton.
How do you do?
Please, you have to state your name for the town record.
I'm Joan Burrell, and I'm on the Historical Commission, and I'm here to talk about a project I've been working on for the last year. We had these beautiful plaques donated that commemorate the oldest schoolhouses in town, the location of them. We do have a few of them that are still standing, one of them being the Grange. And the first plaque that I started working on is for the North Street School that we talked about at the town meeting to get the trees out of the foundation, which I was so happy that we were able to get the money to do that. And why I'm here is because we had some questions the other night at our meeting about these plaques, and we're going to have them mounted on granite and installed at the sites of these old schools. The 5 plaques we have, one of them is on public land. That's the one up on North Street. So that one really isn't much of a question. I would assume that we could place it on the public land with the highway department. John Johnson was talking with me, and he wants me to go up there and show him approximately where we want it, and he would, you know, let us know which would be the best, you know, location for it. The second one that I've been working on is the one for the Grange building, which was the first high school here in town. And talked with the Grange people about it, and we went back and forth, and we were talking about putting it on the building itself. And then when I presented that to my committee, they didn't really think that that was the best option. They wanted it to be installed properly on a piece of granite. So then we were talking about the location of where could we put it. That's private land. And if we're going to be using our money, our town money that we get for this project, could we place it on private property, or would we have to have it out toward the street? And if it was out toward the street, we wanted to know what are the guidelines for how far back from the road it would have to be. And could we install it on private land? So that's why I've come here to talk to you people to see if you have any of these answers for us.
The funding that the Historical Commission uses, even though it is indirectly, directly town funding, you do have the ability to mark a building of historic nature, whether it be on private property, provided you have permission to do that.
Oh, by the landowner.
Right. If you have an obstacle to that and you want to place it on town property, there is an easement from the street to the property line that the town controls an easement. And all streets and sidewalks in the town of Upton have easements off of them that have, let's call it a buffer, that you would have the ability to go off. So let's say if we talked about the Grange and you wanted to go so many feet off the sidewalk and put in the granite monument in a visible location, the town has that easement right. I don't know the exact footage, but we do have an easement right that you would probably have no problem mounting it there.
Okay, okay.
The town-
And if we wanted to put it on the private property, like wanted to put it beside the front door of the Grange, that would be okay
You'd need to get written permission from
from
them
them?
for
Right.
the authorization to it, but you are using town historical funds to mark a historical project, whether it be private or not. You know, you're noting it as a historical property.
Okay,
So we've never imposed a restriction on it in the past.
okay. Well, then if we're going to install them by private home, and the Grange is a little different, but there are 3 others that are private homes. And one of the people that owned the home said, well, you can put it on the property. And then the commission talked about it and said, well, you know, if they sell the property and somebody else comes in and they don't like the fact that this is there, well, you know, let's get rid of it. So we thought maybe then we probably should put it within that easement. Now, is it a specific,
The town controls easements off of all roadways and.
so who would we talk to
You could
find
talk-
out?
Well, you could go downstairs to the assessor's office, you could talk to the planning board, you could
Okay.
speak.
So it's not a set
a
number of
footage.
feet off?
I can't say exactly what it is. I know that usually most roads were 16 feet off center to the roadway, so if you.
Off center of the road?
Yes, most people think that, you know, they have a stone wall on their property. What they don't realize is probably on town easement.
Uh-huh,
And the town has that for rights of
okay.
expansion, whatever, the town needs
Okay, so
access
it
to.
depends upon the size
So,
of the road, too.
It's just my opinion, I'll ask my colleagues, but my opinion would be to primarily stay within town property. Therefore, if there's a transfer of property, you don't have any legal issues. The
Right.
maintenance of it becomes town responsibility, not the property owner.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, you know, there's a number of things, God forbid vandalism or anything.
right, right,
It's- If you could mark it on town property, then no one has a problem.
okay, okay, that sounds
Gary?
good.
I have to agree with what you said, and your best bet is probably the planning board or somebody to talk to get you the actual distance. Steve?
Yeah, same idea. I would say you definitely would want to stay, you know, as close to that easement or within that easement area. And then whatever.
This project is taking so much longer than I ever thought it would take.
I'm going to recognize somebody, former planning board, conservation, board of health, board of selectmen member. You want to say something?
Whose wife is on the committee.
I remember 1980 very clearly. In 1981, we discontinued 10 highways, 10 roads in Upton, certain portions of it. And one of the places was we were putting a sidewalk on School Street. There's about 2.5 to 3 feet on the Grange in front of the school that is part of
Yeah.
our lot.
Okay.
It's in the layout, if I can find the layout.
To be,
Okay,
yeah, but
Okay.
you need to,
okay, so we'll,
somebody has to certify that that is the fact, and then after that, the placement usually isn't a problem.
okay, okay. Well, I've certainly been enjoying working on this project because it's very close to my heart.
Good.
Schools. And
Something to do with schools, I wonder why.
I wonder why I volunteered to do
Okay.
it. But I wish it was moving along a little faster.
Yes. How many years did you teach in the system?
In the system, 30 years, but all told, I did 35 years because I was in the state of New York first.
Time flies.
It does, it
Yes, it
does, but
does.
it was a good thing.
Great, great.
I loved it. Okay, thank you for your
Okay,
time.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before us, we have a dangerous dog hearing. And before we proceed, and we have, you can come up, Mike. Before we proceed, I'd just like to explain to everyone what this is. Under Mass General Law, Chapter 140, Section 157, a dog hearing is under the authority of the Board of Selectmen. It is a judicial process, therefore it is a legal process. The board's decision is binding in court. An applicant, however the board rules, has the option to petition the court within 10 days of our ruling to appeal our decision. Should they fail the appeal, the applicant is responsible for all costs. Should the court favor the applicant or the appellate, then the town is responsible. In this case, we have 3 options by law. One is that we take no action. One is we declare the dog a nuisance, and if the dog is a nuisance, we have certain parameters that we can follow regularly to restrain hours of the dog being kept outside, fencing, etc. The other option is dangerous dog. If it's a dangerous dog, we can muzzle the dog, we can have the dog confined. We have the ability to enforce all of these, and the final enforcement is euthanasia. If the dog is euthanized, then it is the responsibility of the town to make sure that it's carried out through court. Again, the applicant has the right to appeal. This process, when it takes place, the law requires that all persons coming before our board at this time, and I will open the hearing very shortly, are under oath. Therefore, they are under oath for preventing any form of perjuring themselves and to any statement. That is either the owner, dog officer, or the town in itself. At this point, the complainant is the town of Upton through the police department and the animal control officer. So I will open the hearing. The hearing is now open. The person, the owner of the dog, has been notified, duly notified, that they could be present with the attorney if they so wish. They obviously are not present tonight, so we will still proceed with the process. So do we have any questions before we proceed?
You want to?
No, I'm going to turn it over to the animal control officer, but,
No questions, right?
okay, the Board of Selectmen are in, we have copies of the police reports, the animal control officer's report, and other documentation and photographs relative to the incident. But at this time, I will turn it over to the animal control officer, but before you do, could you please raise your right hand? You solemnly swear to uphold the truth, the total truth, and nothing but the truth, and to prevent any form of perjuring yourself?
I do.
Okay, please.
Do you want me to start the whole report that I sent out?
If you could just paraphrase the situation.
Oh,
because-
the police department got a phone call to go to 63 Ridge Road, but she didn't want, the police department issues wanted animal control to show up. The dog was in the car, being aggressive, couldn't get the dog out of the car. She notified dispatch that the dog had bit her, so the police department went there. Dog's in the car, very aggressive, won't get out of the car. Notified me. Unfortunately, I was at the airport on the way back. I sent Brian Laska up to take care of the dog out of the car for me. He got the dog out of the car. They caged it. Dog's very aggressive. They brought it down to West River Street until I got back. I got back at about 11:30. I picked the dog up, aggressive, which I can handle at first, but it just got worse and worse. Trying to take it outside was a battle, trying to walk it, I had to catch pull it all the time so it wouldn't bite us. She just kept on lunging at us. By Monday, she'd take the food and then turn your back and trying to bite the cage, attacking the cage. As soon as you look at her, I mean, from a distance, she just started pulling everything apart in the cage, just wanted to bite. So I saw Mrs. Dumas on Sunday. I went with Officer Majors, explained her options. The dog had to be quarantined for 10 days. And she didn't want the dog back, so we quarantined it at the kennel for 10 days. She was responsible for the $25 a day kenneling fee. The only thing I was going to charge was the $25 pickup fee for picking the dog up. I gave up the two options after the quarantine was over. She could have the dog euthanized, which she was for at first. There is another option to do ahead of time. I really don't want to get into details. That's kind of gross on it, but I told her it'd be more expensive going that way, just to let the 10 days go out, and then we take care of it. By Tuesday, she wanted to see the dog. I consulted with the police department. Once she sees the dog, somebody's gonna want their pet back. I met her at the police station on Wednesday. Had a change of heart, thought she could give the dog some medication, put a fence up. But the dog still was aggressive in the cage, even though she was feeding it, was still aggressive, you know? It didn't want anything to do with anybody. Like I said, just ongoing, she's just aggressive. And then Mary admitted to Officer Major and myself that on Sunday that the dog bit her in April in the face, so it's a face biter. And then when she went to the hospital on Saturday, but she must have went to the hospital on Sunday, UMass, because UMass sent me on the paperwork another one. She got bit in the arm. She probably didn't realize getting bit in the face. She probably didn't realize the arm. So the dog's really bit 3 times. The dog looks a sweet dog. I'm not anybody that want to put a dog down, but there's just, you can sit next to the kennel, your back to her, and let her try being dominant. She doesn't calm down. She just, and when you take her outside, it's just a fight. She just wants to bite you. You know, it's just a constant fight. And it's a rescue dog she got. It was a couple years old. She's had it for almost a year. And dog doesn't like to listen. I was up there in the last summer, and because she couldn't get the dog in the car. She was chasing up the road with the car, trying to get it back to her yard. And she does walk in the state forest. She admitted to me that, off the leash. Well, for a state forest, mandatory, has to have a leash. I'm worried about the community getting bit by this dog. This dog is very, very aggressive. And I'm one, love dogs. I'm not looking, but unfortunately, I don't see any options with this dog. This dog, there's no, even with food, she'll take the food and she snaps right back at you. I mean, it's just aggression, 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 aggression. And Lady Mary said that it's because of guys. The lady tried doing the same thing. Didn't matter who it was. We tried bringing another dog next to the kennel, see if it calmed it down. The other dog just walked away, of course, because it was calm, but just, it is
Okay.
out of control, unfortunately. So I did the hearing because I'm worried about her at the last minute changing her mind on it, and she wanted her property back. So she has contacted me a few minutes ago. She wants to meet at Tufts at 8 o'clock to put the dog down. But I'm afraid we get the Tufts,
Well,
she's gonna see the dog.
this board will determine, at this
Yeah.
point, the hearing is before
Yeah.
this board, and we will be the determinant based upon, she's had multiple opportunity to come before this board and
Yeah.
to express an opinion. Certainly, one of the things the law does not require is to have the dog removed to another town.
Yeah.
The law will not allow that. You're basically transferring a problem, and the law protects against that. So at this time, I'd open up to my colleagues. Again, we have the police report, we have your report, we have pictures of the owner of the dog and the injury to her face and so forth. Gary?
I read everything that you submitted.
Yep.
I also like dogs and stuff, so this is difficult.
The what?
Um,
Sorry.
I also like dogs, so this
Yeah,
type of decisions
yeah.
are always difficult. But I just have a couple questions.
Yep.
Was the dog defending itself or anything when it attacked? It just,
She just couldn't get it out of the car.
yeah.
She went to the state forest, dog was running loose, and I told you before, Mary, you can't have a dog running in the state forest. It's not a rule, it's a state rule. She got in the car and she couldn't get out. She tried 3 times. And then she finally reached in to put the harness on it, and dog lunged.
What do you think? Do you think something happened to the dog?
Well, it's a
Something
rescue
triggered
dog
it,
from
or-
down south. It was 2 years old, so we don't have an idea. And she always said, it's aggressive, she told me.
So it's been aggressive since day
Yeah,
one.
and, you know, what's the cure? I don't think there is. It's just too old now. You're not gonna cure an older dog aggression like that.
Okay, my biggest,
She's a beautiful dog, trust me, she is beautiful. I mean, she is a beautiful dog. And I'm one not, if I think it could be saved, I'd be the first one to tell you we save it, but I don't see, usually get them to calm down, at least pet them. I can't even get my hand even near her, even after giving her food, to pet her. It's like light switch goes on, and it's, and she said it's been getting worse,
Mhm.
you know?
Okay.
yeah, I just wanted,
Anything else?
no.
No. Steve?
I guess my one question, it sounds like in your years of experience handling dogs, would you say this dog is probably the most aggressive you've dealt with?
Oh, yeah, like I said, I've had varieties and been aggressive, and you control them, but this one's not controllable. Like I said, as soon as I get the leash on it, it's trying to bite you. I end up putting the pole back on it. It's just like, it wants to bite. I know it's in a different, home setting and stuff, but even when you bring a dog next to it that's calm, totally calm, it doesn't care about the dog, it cares about you. It's like,
Right.
at the cage, biting the cage, snapping. And you can be in another room just looking to the other room, and she starts growling and snapping. You know, and that's why I bring it to you guys. It's a liability for a town to bite somebody. What happens if it bites somebody else? She bit her twice in the face, she got a hand, now bites a kid. Where, like I said, I'm at the point, I don't, in my opinion, it's just a dangerous dog.
Again, we have the police report, and we have your report, and I think we have sufficient information here to make a decision. Again, the applicant did have the opportunity to appear before us and make a statement, obviously chose not to. Whether her emotions lead her one way or the other, our decision will be the one that will be final.
Yeah.
So at this time, I will close the hearing. And, excuse me, before I close, is there anyone in the audience that has any testimony before us on this? Okay, there being none, I'll close the hearing. At this time, I will open the debate with my colleagues. Gary?
I think we have to do something. I mean, it's only a matter of time before it gets out and hurts a kid or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that public safety is at risk here, so, you know, I would certainly want to back our animal control officer on this.
Yeah, as everyone knows, has been on this board a long time, and I've had many, many dog hearings, and this will be the first one that I will vote to have a dog euthanized. And it's a difficult decision because we all love pets, but public safety is number one. So at this time, I will open it up for a motion. Gary?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we have the dog euthanized.
Second the motion?
And that's unanimous action. That is the ruling of this board. Again, it is a legal process. The applicant has the right. Are you going to be speaking to the applicant?
Yeah, that's what I said, she's gonna meet me at 8 o'clock at Tufts Vet, at the emergency room. She's gonna do it at the emergency room. She wants to do it later, so people aren't there,
Okay.
which I said, I understood the motions and all that.
Explain. She's got 10 days to appeal.
Yeah,
She needs to be clear that if she's going to appeal, we need to know before that, because if she says, now you're an officer of the town, so
Yeah.
you can address this.
Yeah.
But if she says, I want to appeal it, that
Yeah.
dog's got to go into custody through the appeal process.
Yeah.
It cannot be euthanized.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
she does agree to euthanize it.
yeah,
then
it's
it
on,
becomes
right now,
a point.
it's on her free will to do it, because she realizes that, you know, she can't control the dog, and she's worried about getting bit herself.
It's her free will through
Yeah,
the
at that point, I just want to get the process going in case we get there, and she says, well, I don't want to do it. Now, here's your 10 days
You
to do it.
go to the district court.
Yeah.
If you don't go to the district court, then it becomes effective.
Because then she'll say, I want my property back. We're up there, I want my property back.
If she has.
It is her property.
Yeah, if she has any questions, she can call the town manager. I'm
Yeah.
sure he can address it
Yeah.
and give her her legal,
Yeah.
her legal opportunity, I'll call it, to pursue it as she wishes. But at this time, this board has made that ruling, and that's it. So,
Yeah, like I said, I talked to her on
Yeah.
Sunday, had a long conversation, you know.
Well, I thank you for all the work you've done, and the other people that responded, Mr. Lasker and the others. This is never an easy thing, but that's why this process is here, to protect the citizens. So, thank you very much, appreciate your time.
All right.
Yeah, well done. Thanks.
Okay, next on our agenda is, we have before us, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. Before we get to town manager's report, we have a list of street names that was submitted to us, and it's by the Historical Commission, and normally the Historical Commission makes a recommendation for street names. However, in this case, these have not gone through the public safety departments, and I would prefer that they do, and I would ask my colleagues to refer them back. The simple reason is that in any cases of like pronunciation, and we tried this years ago, we have Maple Ave, Maple Street, Glenview, Glen Ave. We have a number of streets that have identical names or similar names, and that causes confusion for public safety. So if you gentlemen are in agreement, I'd ask we defer this back to public safety and ask them to make any changes or recommendations if any of the names conflict.
I agree with you.
Okay?
Yes, I agree.
So we'll take that up at our next meeting? Thank you. Okay, at this time, the manager's report. Derek?
Okay, great. So I got a few items I wanted to mention. And again, as a way to be open to the public, we'll send this out tomorrow sometime through our social media platform. So as we met last time on November 16th, I believe, you all had an opportunity to meet the candidate, Dennis Westgate, for DPW director. I'm happy to report that we've come to an agreement on contract. He has signed a 3-year contract with the town, and he is expected to begin on December 18th. I also expect him to come in sometime tomorrow to start the transition with DPW staff. So he wants to get ahead of even the start date by meeting with staff. I think the Maloneys just executed the purchase and sale agreement and others sellers agreements. So we are ahead of pace of executing the purchase of 3 Milford Street. With today's action by the board, we expect to pass papers by Friday. So again, a week ahead of schedule. Once that happens, I've already talked to public safety officials. We're gonna do a walkthrough of the building to ensure that it's secure, it's being monitored for theft, vandalism, and fire hazards. Relative to the fire department, I know there's been some questions about some of the old vehicles that have been hanging around in the yard back there. The chief has worked with a number of state officials. They have removed tanker 1. They removed the old brush breaker in the back there. And the air light truck, which was part of the district, has been moved on to District 14, I believe. Additionally, there was an F-150 in the back and the rear there, that's been moved to BBT, and it's gonna be taken apart to be used for parts down the road. So, again, trying to clean up our own property with unregistered vehicles. As you all can remember, last week, we had a gas main that had burst over by the railroad. And I just wanted to bring that up a little bit. I have more details in the report, but I just wanted to talk in particular about the response by our fire department, which I thought was amazing. I actually had a chance, Kelly had showed me that you can go online and you can listen to the 911 communication. So I spent the better part of the afternoon not only briefing the board as to what was transpiring, but listening in. And that was an all-call response from how I understand it. So our career staff, they were covering the station up in Westboro because they were dealing with a structure fire on Route 9 of a restaurant. And so once this happened, we called in 4 of our call staff. Assistant Chief Marchand actually led that response and did a phenomenal job with our call. So this is my first experience understanding the value of call firefighters. And if you have a chance, you can not only watch the video and the things that they did to suppress the gas, but understanding the work that, the experience and the technical expertise they have to providing fire protection and other hazmat response, I thought was phenomenal. So I wanted to talk about that publicly. We've already talked about the, Senator Moore had mentioned the $27,000 they were able to override. But again, Senator didn't say too much about it, but we need to do a good job of reaching out to other state officials to try to get that money supported by the governor. Relative to Public Works, on November 17th, many of you heard that we had an E. coli hit at our well, one of our wells over on Glen Ave. That was in the raw water, wasn't in the distribution system. However, because it was still an E. coli hit, it required the town to provide public notice, which we did. We've since subsequently tested that well. It's clean. There's no longer E. coli found in that water. However, the state, they're still requiring us to keep that well shut down. They're asking us to implement something known as a 4-log system, which, to boil it down, it's basically a new system that allows contact time of the chlorine residual before the water gets into our distribution system. I met with CDM Smith this morning with our water officials. And so we expect there may be some construction that's going to have to take place this spring. We may have to install a new water line and a new chlorination line in order to implement that 4-log system. But we hope to get that done in advance of the summer months because we're going to need that water volume for the hot months of the summer. Moving on to some public works information, my last comment I wanted to make. We haven't had a DPW director, I understand that, but that doesn't mean that our the men and women haven't been working each and every day to try to prepare us for the winter months. In my report, you'll see a memo from John Johnson, our highway superintendent, who really does a good job summarizing all the things that they've been doing to prepare for the snow and ice that's ahead of us. They have the salt and sand is prepared, it's in its shed. All the snow blowers and the plows and the trucks have all been prepared and they are all in working order. So they're prepared to respond to that. And on top of that, they have been working on trying to mitigate any potholes that's going to be before us next spring. They have been working on to the months of October and November. 9 tons of hot mix and tons of cold mix to try to repair all those potholes. So I wanted to bring that up so folks know in the community that DPW is working on preparations even in advance of our DPW director getting here.
Okay, very good. It's a very detailed report. Very good. Thank you. Any questions?
Just one question on the well. You said we may have to install a new system.
It's called a 4-log system.
Do you know how much that's going to cost?
No, we don't have a price just yet. When I met with CDM Smith, they have to do some formulas looking at the distance. There's a 4-inch main from the wells, the raw water that leads to the pump station. It's around 200 to 300 feet, 4-inch main. The state requires a certain amount of contact time before that water gets into the distribution system. So they have their scientists at CDM and Smith that's gonna do the math on that to determine whether or not there's enough contact time in that line before we can send to distribution. The concern is we may have to dig that 4-inch main up and replace it with an 8 to a 12-inch main in order to get the proper water volume. That's one piece we have to do. The other piece we know we have to do is we're gonna have to run like a 1-inch line from the pump station back to the wells that is gonna chlorinate. We need to chlorinate the water at the well site. Right now it's being chlorinated at the pump station. So that's where you get that contact time from the well to the pump station. In between that 200 to 300 foot run is where you need your contact time. So we don't have a cost to that yet, but I want folks to understand kind of the process and the research we're doing to try to get to the point we need to be. But we'll get a cost at some point.
Just one other thing, and I know we've talked off on the phone about this. Can you just tell everybody that you are doing like some checks and balances, so there isn't such a long delay next time you get a notification?
Yeah, so the issue that transpired with the delay in notice was the sample was taken on November 6th. It's usually a 24 or 48 hour process before you get your lab reports back. So we have now, so once we got those lab reports, there was a failure in reading the lab reports and then providing notice. It was the state who picked up a week later on those lab reports and then contacted us. So we're working, we're working with a new laboratory, first and foremost. And two, we have checks and balances in place where these reports will not only go to the water superintendent, but also the DPW director. And those two individuals will ensure that the reports are being read in a timely manner.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Steve?
Let's see, I did have one for you. Regarding the tanker, so tanker 1, was that returned back to, I believe that was a FEMA truck?
That's right.
So that was returned back. Do we have any updates on the tanker that was the money that was appropriated at the annual town meeting as far as the purchase of the replacement tanker? Do we have any
Right,
update
so
on
that's the apparatus that I believe is in Maryland or New Jersey?
New Jersey, I
It's
thought I had
New
heard.
Jersey. The chief has told me that they plan on picking up that vehicle in the next week or so.
Okay.
So it's ready to be shipped up here.
Okay. I see that one was gone, so I was just curious when the new one was coming.
Okay, thank you,
That's
Derek.
all.
Next, we have traditional Class Common Vic and Class 2 renewals. Before that, I'm sorry, with all the transition with the ceremony earlier in our meeting, I forgot to ask for approval of the November 16th meeting. Are we prepared to motion to approve?
The minutes?
Yeah, the minutes, I'm sorry.
There we go. Yep, you ready, sir?
If we could, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we approve the executive session minutes and regular session minutes from November 16th, 2017 as written.
Second motion.
That's unanimous, thank you. Sorry for my omission. Next comes the Common Vic and Class 2 renewals. We have Common Vic and then the Class 2, which we know you'll recuse yourself from, but Common Vic, you can certainly be a part of that. I would say, could we take them in separate? Gary, are you prepared? The board has before us, just so everyone understands, a list, and it shows all the names of the properties or the owners and their present situation as far as tax title, taxes, and any monies due the town. If someone is remiss, and in some cases it's as small as $25, but it is a legal technicality, we will motion subject to their meeting the requirements and paying the outstanding balances. So it's, we're not trying to impede them from getting their license, we just have to comply with what the process is. So at this time, I would open it up to address the liquor licenses and the common vic licenses. Gary?
You all set, sir?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the following applicants: Main Street Pizza, CNN Food Services, which is Dunkin' Donuts, Dick Kelly's Farm Stand, JJ's Ice Cream Shop, Jade Garden, The Coffee Bean, Upton House of Pizza, BVT, Gasco Energy, and the VFW for licenses under Common Vic as submitted on the renewal checklist with specifications that all conditions are met before any license or renewals are released.
Second the motion.
That's unanimous action. Thank you. Okay. Liquor licenses?
Is that the liquor? Was that liquor or what's this one? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the following licenses under liquor license as submitted. Country Super, Rose Garden. And do you want me to read off like the amusement joke box and all them too? Or just,
Yeah, I don't think you need to.
Nipmuc Run and Club, Rod and Gun Club, sorry, Red Rock Bar and Grill. Submitted the renewal checklist with specifications that all conditions are met before any license renewals are released.
A friendly amendment, Liquor Plus, I think you skipped past that one.
I think Wound and Wicker was in there, right?
Liquor Plus doesn't have anything added to it.
Okay, got it.
You
All right.
approved that at the last meeting.
Thank you, got it, okay.
Okay. Second motion.
That's unanimous action. Okay, Mr. Meridian, which business? If you would recuse yourself, please, because as an owner of a Class 2 property, he has to recuse himself of this process. It doesn't imply anything other than the fact that the law requires it. So, Gary, please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the following applicants: Gasco Wheels, Lakeside Machine Incorporated, Battalion Motors, MCQ Sales, MGM Auto, Watuza Auto, Nayla Equipment Corporation, New England Classic Car, Patrick Davidson, Upton Truck and Auto, Upton Foreign Auto Service, Upton Getty, Wilson Tire and Auto, Atlantis, Western Motors.
Okay, second that, and make it a majority action of the board. Thank you. Welcome back. So, and these are all public record, should anyone want to see the list of these. Okay, we had asked copies of the tax title properties. I understand we're not prepared for that, and we'll defer to our next meeting. Is that correct? There is a process of gaining that information through the Board of Assessors?
There is a process, and I'll defer this because Kelly says she's one of the assessors and maybe wants to talk about some of the things that they've been doing the past 2 weeks to support the request by the Board of Selectmen that went to the treasurer collector, who is struggling to find which properties under the town of Upton are tax title versus, say, held for recreation or for conservation purposes. And they've been doing a lot of work to try to
So the
decipher.
treasurer collector,
Please.
thanks for having me. So the treasurer collector requested that the assessors review all of the Upton Town of property. So so the department coordinator, Tracy Tardy, along with Assessor Bill Taylor, put in a lot of hours on this over the last couple of weeks. So first of all, I'd like to publicly thank them for the work that they did. There was a close to 60 plus properties that if you just did a query on our assessor system that said belong to the town of Upton. So Tracy then went and looked at most of the deeds of these properties and coded them whether they were conservation, such as Sweet William Farm, which we know is conservation land, and make sure it was coded correctly. She also looked at the deeds and to see if it was given to the inhabitants of the town of Upton, or if it was given to the board, the town of Upton through the Board of Selectmen, so she coded those accordingly. She also coded the properties that have drainage and culverts on it that belong to DPW or are in the care of the DPW. And lastly, we believe she recognized about 20 properties that would have been taken in tax title. Out of those 20, there's probably 5 of them have just been sold at the auction that we had last week. And there's probably 2 or 3 of them, one being Bradish Farm Road. Like, we don't know why it's being recognized as tax title when it's a publicly accepted road. It could be that something happened with the deed. So the assessors reviewed it at their meeting this afternoon, and I asked for more details to be made so we could put it in a spreadsheet, so you would see all 70-plus properties, whether it's conservation, whether it's tax title, whether it's, other property that the town needs to own, that we own it. And I'm hoping to have that for maybe your next selectmen's meeting, if not definitely after the first of the year. We just want to do more research to make sure that we don't want to give you information that is not accurate, and we just want a little bit more information. So right now, I can tell you that there's probably about 15 properties that are in tax title.
Okay, good. Well, thank you. So at our next meeting, you'll provide that, and please say thank you. I know, I can imagine
Yeah.
hours to go into doing this.
Tracy did a lot of work, and then Bill Taylor went and reviewed the work. And Bill's even gone through with like the 15 properties, has gone through and pulled out the maps, highlighted, what the property is, and has determined why we might have it. And some of it could very well be that it should be conservation or something else. So hopefully we'll have a pretty good idea by after the first of the year on what the town of Upton's property is and where we can go moving forward.
So the number is nowhere near the 88 that was mentioned at town meeting.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where that number is coming from.
but the opportunity is the town can now look at these properties, make a determine what we want to do with them.
Right.
Correct.
The 88 is less than 88 total town of Upton's properties, that are queried under the town of Upton, but there's different, we'd have to talk to the treasurer collector on that number.
Okay, thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Okay, next is a discussion on the annual report. I know my colleagues have had some questions. I saw some communication relative to this. I don't know if you would rather have conversation with the individuals that are involved, or does the board want to discuss it now?
I've been talking to Derek. I've replied to Mr. Boyke, so I will go down and talk to him too.
Okay. You understand the process?
Yes.
Presently, one of the requests was, and to be transparent about this, is the Board of Selectmen is looking at publishing the salaries in the annual town report. To the board's position, it should be coming from the Treasurer Collector's Office. If we are unable to get them through that process, that means that department heads are going to have to go through and manually calculate the compensation, and that's extensive amount of work. So I would defer it at this time, allow my colleagues to have conversation, and they will regroup on our next meeting on the agenda, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And just so the folks know that payroll goes through that office.
Yes,
So
correct. Yeah.
that's why we're waiting to get that information.
Correct? We're all set?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Execute the acceptance deed of 3 Milford Street. I will defer this to the town manager because you had the most recent conversation, but the parties have executed their.
That's right, the sellers are here, and they've signed the deed on their end. They've signed the seller's documents, where there are a number of seller's documents. The treasurer collector will wire the funds to Copeland and Page, who would then pay the different parties so that the town can then receive ownership of the structure. We're expecting all of this to transpire no later than Friday, and then after that, we'll take ownership of the building.
Correct. Okay, we're all set?
Right, so we would just ask you to
At the end of the meeting.
formally
Oh, okay.
sign the
Or do
deed.
you
At
want
the
to do
end.
it now? Or no?
We'll sign it at the conclusion of the meeting rather than hold up the meeting, but thank you. Once we execute it, it is final and complete. And thank you to the voters for having an understanding on a good faith effort. There are plans, again, I have to be discreet, am I correct? But for the redevelopment of the downtown area, this gives us a big opportunity because let's call that the anchor to the redevelopment. And we are in process of negotiation for the balance of the land and potential use. Again, we are trying to do it so that the town is not the party that's making the investment. We are simply brokering the deal for the benefit of the community. I know taxpayers are concerned, what are we going to invest? It's our intent that we won't invest, and if anything, we will be selling property to add to that development process. Figure out what I'm saying, it's quite simple, right? Okay. The last one we have on our agenda is to review the Tri-Valley Annual Road Race request. Gary,
Ready for a motion, sir?
please.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to authorize Matthew Kelly and the Tri-Value Front Runners, their road race on March 31st, 2018, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m.
I second the motion.
That's unanimous action, March already, wow. Okay, so that's approved. Next we have, is there anything that my colleagues would like to bring up under new business or unanticipated? Gary?
No, sir.
Steve?
Yes, actually, I had a conversation with Derek a couple of days ago. We have, I believe, we had a few committees that we were going to continue to hold until after town meeting. I think we are probably about ready to dissolve those committees now. I think the Town Manager Review Act Committee and I think the Feasibility Study Committee. And then I guess one other thing that came to my attention, I had a resident ask me about Capital Budget Committee. And the scope of the work now and the scope of what Capital Budget is doing now, as far as what I've found, and I guess I forgot to double check this with you, Derek, I do not think that the Board of Selectmen hold any appointments to that board.
Mhm.
So I think moving forward, we need to probably have a bylaw change whereby the Board of Selectmen would have key appointments to that board. And I believe there is an opening on the board now.
There is.
Yeah.
There is an opening on the board, but again, all of the appointments for that board are held by other committees. And one thing that I had said to Derek, it's kind of unusual to be on an appointed board and hold appointments. That really technically, shouldn't happen. Well, that's my opinion anyways. It shouldn't
Okay,
happen.
I would ask town manager to please put on the next agenda those two articles for discussion by the board. Anytime you have, and I'm just being very candid here, if you have something you want to propose, all you have to do is send me an email. The reason we want information, less information at the close of a meeting and more to the front, is that the citizens have access to the total agenda before we meet. This board's been criticized for items that are not posted on the agenda or on the website, and then we discuss it that night, and people say, we didn't know you were going to discuss it. So that's why we try and put everything on the agenda to keep it as transparent as possible. So we will discuss it at our next meeting and take action.
Yeah, that's my bad. I just brought it up
No,
2
no,
days
no, no,
ago,
no,
so.
just so, because, believe me, people are gonna, you discussed that, it wasn't on your agenda, why did you not, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Not that people ever criticized. So, yes, Gary, anything else?
To piggyback off you, I think Derek and Kelly have been doing a really good job putting a lot more information on the website. I noticed the
great,
TIP project
yep.
was up there, and I know a lot of people are following the Twitter feed now, so
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, it'll be interesting regarding the TIP project. When that meeting is held, it'd be nice to see if we have good participation from the residents. I think there was a lot of questions.
Yes. And Sandy.
And
Get
Sandy.
that, Gary?
Yes.
Yeah. Gary's minutes won't arrive on time. Okay. Is there anything from the audience at this time? Okay, we had a full meeting, but a lot accomplished. Thank you very much. At this time, I would motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
The board is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thanks.